Hello and welcome to another episode from the guys at the All About the Balls Sports podcast. We're three mates who love to sit around the pub and chat about sport. One of us is a little bit country, one of us is a little bit rock and roll, and the other one is a little bit jazz flute. And this week we were planning to debate our best international rugby 15 of the past decade in our ongoing best of series. And we've had many fans write in actually with their best of rugby 15s, but apologies. This weekend has been so incredible in the world of sport that we've had to pivot a little bit. And we thought it wouldn't be right to try and squeeze all the topical news into just a few minutes of chat and do the best 15 in the world. So, in an exciting editorial decision, we've decided to push back our best rugby 15 to next week. And tonight, we are just going to focus on the shenanigans of the moment in cricket, football, and of course, the world of rugby. But before we go on any further, grab yourself a drink, get comfy, and let me introduce you to two very fine fellows, Gareth and Ian. Lads, how are we both?
Yeah, good. How are you all?
Yes, good. I'm still in a little bit of shock from just a wonderful weekend of entertaining sport.
It's been brilliant, hasn't it?
It has been.
Has it?
Mate, yeah, it's been a tough one for you, mate. It has been a tough one for you, I'll be honest with you. We were saying just before going on air that actually the only thing missing is you being a Saracens fan. And I wouldn't be surprised if on Blue Monday, as it is, we got a message going you couldn't quite make it. But yeah, look, I've loved it. I haven't had much on this weekend, so I've loved all the sport.
I do have a silver lining that my American football team is in the Super Bowl. So
there you go.
I'm pivoting in terms of anywhere I can get some good feeling. My favourite badminton player won on the weekend too, so that's good. Everything's good. But the 49ers, if our long-standing listeners will remember, we did a quiz and many moons ago, and my team, which is actually my childhood American football team, that is the 49ers, have done, I think they were the worst performing team in the conference last year.
Yeah, they were shocking.
And now into the Super Bowl. That is one good thing about the whole setup there, is anyone still can actually have a chance because of the draft system.
Yeah, it takes a few years,
within reason.
Doesn't it?
Within reason.
They work in cycles, don't they? So, team that's rubbish one year could be in the mix in the next few years, which does make it interesting. They also have salary caps though, don't they? So it'll be
He's concentrating there.
Do they work?
What for all our listeners, what is a salary cap for all our Saracens fans out there?
Too soon. But look, we will come on to that. But before we do, how was everyone's weekend? Is everyone well? Everyone happy? Everyone safe?
Yes, I've had a good weekend. It was my wife's birthday, so happy birthday to her.
Happy birthday, Liz.
It's a sad time when part of the present haul that she picked up yesterday was me saying to her, I'll go to the two kids' parties and you can stay at home and do nothing.
Best present she's ever received.
Exactly. And the excitement. When I told all the parents at the party, they're like, that's a pretty good present. I think you've done well there. Because about an hour into that party, we were like, oh my God, it's 5:30 on a Sunday. It's just, there was nothing wrong with the party. It was very well put together. Great party. Ticked all the boxes. But I just was losing the will to live.
Mate, 5:30 on a Sunday evening for a
party.
And
I'd taken my son to another one before, but we had to leave early to get to the other one. So basically played football for an hour at the party, got lumps kicked out of him by some other 6-year-old who just was the dirtiest. He was just the dirtiest 6-year-old I've ever seen.
Did Jamie come out? Did he come out? Did he try and close down the angles, or did he?
Well, no, because he was playing in central midfield, so he was just distributing this week. But he, but because we had to leave early, as we walked out, he just went. He just realised he didn't get any food at the party because we were going to the next one, and then he bawled his eyes out to the car, going, "This is the worst party I've ever been to in my life." Got kicked no food, no goodie bag, nothing to show for it. So I had to stop at the co-op, get him food, bribe him to get to the next party, and then we were fine once we were there. So, I mean, it's just hashtag winning all round for me. But anyway, my weekend was great. Thank you, boss.
Yeah, that's the great British weekend. Absolutely fantastic. What about you, boys? How was yours? Was it as painful as that?
Well, my weekends just seem to be the same. It's like which kids' party you're going to, and that's about it. And my wife was working on Sunday, so I had both the girls, and just before she went to work, she said, "Why don't you take them both swimming?" In earshot of my eldest, who was immediately like, "Yeah, let's go swimming." So I took a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old swimming. My 3-year-old insisted on wearing her costume the whole way, so it was freezing, and she was just in a swimming costume. And obviously you can't put a 1-year-old in their swimming costume, so getting her ready while having the other one just running around trying to help but not is an absolute disaster. So, and
excellent parenting.
And I'm not really eating at the moment because I'm trying to lose some weight, so I'm grumpy as hell. So it was it was a bit of a nightmare. But,
are you still on the dry Jan?
Still on the dry Jan, yeah.
Well done.
Still on the dry Jan. So
very impressed.
That image of you with the two toddlers there, it reminds me of a letter, I think an email that some dad wrote into CBeebies that I think has done the rounds on the email chains and things like that. And he's talking about some scheduling change that they made, and he's not happy about it at all. And in the email he says something like, "What you're expecting us to do here is like trying to get an angry badger into a bag. It's not going to work. It's not going to work, and someone's going to get hurt." But anyway. So look, lads, rugby, football, cricket. Shall we start with cricket?
Yeah.
Sure. Let's do it.
Let's pull that. Brilliant.
Let's pull that band-aid off right now.
Band-aid off first.
I've got the cricket highlights on as we speak. Well, low lights.
Yeah, low lights. We have the perfect setup here because we've got an Englishman and a South African. Let's ask the Safa first again. Let's keep pulling that band-aid off.
Yeah,
Gareth, mate, what's happened? Because first test, South Africa looked promising.
I'm gonna say it probably didn't help that the English team was riddled with some form of disease that they picked up pre the first test, which I don't think helped in the first test. But they played nicely. I don't think England played great in the first test. But to be fair, South Africa did what they had to do, and they bowled well, and they did enough. But I have to say, we know my feelings on Joe Root and his captaincy and just that element of it. But actually, I have to say, he's led the team well the last 2 test matches. They've caught brilliantly. Although I got into a bit of a debate with my 10-year-old cousin about Ben Stokes' inability to catch. And I was like, he's amazing. He's dropped 3 this test, but it's because it's hard. Anyway, so I went through the mechanics of that.
Some very opinionated children.
Oh, mate. I think there's a trend. There's only one common denominator here. And it seems to be me.
You spending a lot of time with kids arguing
about sport. But yeah, I think England play, especially this test match, have played very well. And have not allowed South Africa to get in the game.
What do you make of Faf? Is he under pressure, do you think?
Yeah, loads. Yeah. Loads of pressure. And he's had to come out today, and basically say that he's not retiring and that he's not going to retire at the end of the series. But who knows?
Who's going to replace him? I mean, it seems like you've got on paper, probably a really strong bowling attack, although I think you got maybe found out a little bit as the tests have gone on that there's a lot of reliance on Rabada from her to lead the team. But you have got a strong bowling attack. It seems that batting is weaker and similar to England. I mean, let's not get away from. I'm trying not to get too excited about the England team, because the series has been really two relatively poor teams. South Africa haven't been good, and England has certainly been in transition. So, compared to Australia at the moment and India, neither team would get close. But you just seem to be lacking in the batting. I don't know who your leading scorer is, but De Kock's got to be up there, and he's coming in at 6 or 7?
Yeah, I mean, I think the reality is Elgar will. I don't think he is a captain, but he has captained before. I still think Aidan Markram, who annoyingly obviously broke his finger in the first test. I think he hasn't been batting brilliantly, but I rate him as a batsman, and I think he'll be a future captain. Hamza coming in at 3 is very inexperienced, although experienced at first class level, but not at test level. Then you got Faf, who's struggling for form and captaincy ideas. And then you've got Rassie van der Dussen, who is, again, 29, 30, very, very experienced first class cricketer, but he's only played 4 test matches. And then you've got De Kock. So I think it isn't great, but it's also not all doom and gloom. There's still a fairly inexperienced side in terms of with the bat. Although Philander's retiring, so that's going to be interesting. Although he bowled 14 overs in the whole test match. I mean,
really?
I don't know. I can't remember I think it was about 130 overs that England batted for. 130, 140 overs, and he bowled 14 overs. I mean, if you ever want someone to go missing, that was the biggest example you've ever seen of just don't throw me the ball.
It was interesting as well because spin clearly had a big impact on the game. You had, was it Best in the first innings to get a 5 for?
Yeah.
And he got the first 4 wickets quite early on, didn't he? And
he got 5. Got all first 5.
Root suddenly become England's second best spinner, picking up 4 wickets. Outrageous. But South Africa just don't see they don't seem to have that spinner that they can turn to rely on either to get wickets or to sort of to tie up an end. Rabada seems to just self-destruct and.
Okay, I want to get your 2 opinions on the Rabada suspension. What are you thinking?
I think it's a joke. Yeah.
It's a joke. It's a joke it is a joke. Yeah, it's a joke. But the only thing in their defence is he's got form, hasn't he?
What has that got to do with it?
Well, he's been warned about it before and got the demerit points, so he's done it again and not learned. And I think that's what a lot of people are saying. It's like a soft red card, isn't it? It's really it's probably an isolation. It's not it's certainly not worth a 1-game ban, and I think it's going to not ruin the last test, but it swings it well in England's favour, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But he's just got to learn. I mean, what's he like? Is he seems just inexperienced and needs to grow up a bit, but it's probably
I don't know. I mean, he's now 23. He's been playing cricket for a long time, Test cricket.
Is Rabada only 23?
Yeah, 23, 24, I think. He's been playing for a long time, like 4 or 5 years. But for me, I think you're in danger of losing that. You know, I think it's quite entertaining, and I don't see the previous thing. I know a couple of people have said it, and I just don't get it, because for me, you've got to just take it in the situation. It's like going, well, that guy always gets a red card, so when you go sliding in, then getting a red card when it shouldn't be, because he's normally a dirty player. But he's 24, I believe. He's 24. My producer has just whispered in my ear.
Yeah, look, I think it was a bad decision. Yes, I agree with Boise. It was silly of him, I think, to do that, because he must have known that he only needed 1 more demerit and he was going to get a ban. So it was silly, but I don't think that kind of thing deserves a demerit. I don't think it deserves a ban from a match. But and it, like you say, it really potentially kind of not kills the series, because it's not a given that England are going to win the final test, but it really makes it a lot harder for South Africa to fight back into the series. And I think that's a real shame. Like, you've got to have rules and regulations, but I don't think that those rules and regulations are there to stop that kind of behaviour. So,
how much of it do you think is down to that there's just not the senior players and leadership in the side that's probably pushing them along on the right path? Potentially, I kind of wonder. It does seem that there's not much experience in the side, and then if he had a bowling partner that was there just going, look, this aggression and this emotion is good, but just use it in the right
there or something like that.
Exactly, exactly. Because Stein was pretty emotional, wasn't he? And
he's scary,
and wound up, but he controlled it or used it. But then saying that, I saw I heard about it before I'd seen it, and when I actually saw it, I mean, it is nothing, isn't it? He just goes and celebrates in front of him. He's barely doing it at him. It's just in front of him. So
it's doing, exactly, like in association with him or something like that. Like it's not. And that, he's not.
I mean, that's why I think it's harsh.
Him,
I agree. You need to learn to grow up, but actually, you probably didn't think he was doing anything wrong there.
Yeah.
He knows.
He did. If you watch the footage, he did deviate his line back in towards route. Like if he'd carried on the natural path, he would have been.
I think he was checking. He was checking if the stumps were okay. That's why he went back towards the stumps.
He is known as the groundsman's best friend.
Yes.
Actually,
well, exactly. I don't know. It does put a dampener on the last test at the Wanderers.
It does, and I mean, look, that was England's biggest away win for more than 9 years. Do you think they're going to better that in the final test?
I'm not actually sure what's the pitch usually does in Johannesburg, but
let's go to our local Joburg correspondent.
Well, actually, that is my that's my local ground. I've watched many hours of Test cricket there. I'm a Joburg boy. I've watched many hours of Test cricket there.
Really?
The Wanderers track is bouncy, quick, moves around a bit.
Oh, good. So
perfect for perfect.
Great for
England.
Rabada.
Yeah.
Great for Rabada.
The irony. So go then.
Woody will be good on that.
Yeah.
Woody will love that.
I think potentially, England could storm it. I don't think South Africa are going to be particularly up for it. I don't expect they'll put up much of a fight, and England have got the momentum. So I think
bold prediction.
Yeah,
it's a bold prediction.
Voices for the England win. Gareth, what are you thinking?
If not, just watching the highlights of the poor batting. If South Africa are nothing but gritty, so I think they will put up a fight. I think England will win the match, but I think it's going to be a pretty good Test match.
It has been a really good series. That's been a really good series.
Yeah, like you said, I think it's been two evenly transitioning teams, but. Yeah. I think Mark Boucher, who's taken over as the SA coach, has realised this is a much, much bigger job than he thought.
Yeah.
I think that will be...
Don't get me wrong, if England are good at anything, it's getting your hopes up and then letting you down. So
dashing them on the rocks.
It could be an innings win for South Africa. So...
If it is, it'd be the most ridiculous
hilarious
series. But anyway, okay. So England wins all round then. Lovely. Right. So
I know we're pushed for time, but can I just say how good England were, and England are looking like in a lot better place than they were 2-3 weeks ago. It's amazing. The difference that Pope looks awesome and looks well suited to Test cricket, and now after having batting issues, we've got, if you take out Crawley and put Burns back in, 5 of our top 6 have scored hundreds in the past, in the winter series, which is an amazing stat. So it's only Denley who hasn't. So I think
one of the biggest problems from the summer, wasn't it? That England struggled for those, particularly first inning runs.
Exactly.
For a while now, England have struggled for those first inning runs to either, to put the pressure back on the opposition. And this match was a great example.
And I know he's injured, but I think what we saw was how important Broad and Anderson actually playing together is for the England team, and is going to be, because I think playing with Broad and Anderson is going to be so good for the other bowlers, certainly the Currans, Archers, just both being managed, but learning from them to kind of the plans and how to build pressure is going to be so important. So I think it's really positive.
And like you say, something that maybe Rabada is missing.
Yeah,
not having that senior bowler.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So let's hopefully a good final test.
It's exciting. Stokes is class.
Christ, that man's amazing. We could do a whole show on him. In fact, let's do that.
Yeah.
But absolute hero. So speaking of pure class, there was a lot of good games across the weekend in the Premier League. In particular, fantastic result for Palace. Boy, so you must be both kind of chuffed with the point, but slightly disappointed you didn't get all three.
Yeah, I think so. I think we always go to the Man City game thinking we're going to be absolutely spanked, and I to be honest, when they equalised, it was annoying, but you half expected them to win it from there. So to come away with a point is brilliant, and that's a point we wouldn't have expected. So I think we're like 8th or 9th now.
It was at Etihad. It was at the Etihad, wasn't it?
Yeah. We won there last year though, so I think we did. Exactly. But I think it's hard for City now because we just set up to. We're really good away from home, where we just sit behind the ball and then we break really quickly. So it's. I think we're a tough team to break down, especially with. Player of the decade, Gary Cahill, in the middle of defence. So,
the rock of the defence.
Exactly.
I got quite a lot of stick from Liverpool fans over that team of the decade, by the way.
Yeah, do you know what? It was funny actually. When I was sort of tweeting about it and looking at the image that we put together, there was a distinct lack of Liverpool players in there. And speaking of which. It was a tough day at the office yesterday for Mr. Lautenberg. Not only did he have 2 kids' parties to deal with, but his beloved Man United lost to dreaded rivals Liverpool 2-0. So 2 questions for you that I want to get your thoughts on, guys. Not how screwed are Man United, but what's going on at Man United? What really are the big problems there that they need to fix? Because I've got a couple of thoughts on there. I'd be interested to hear what you guys are. And then secondly, how good are Liverpool? Are they already one of the great teams? And if not, what have they got to do to be classed as one of the greats?
Well, firstly, there weren't any Liverpool players in Team of the Decade because Liverpool haven't won the Premier League yet, and they've only done it for the past 2 seasons. So, so not for the past 10 years. Secondly,
very valid.
They can, at the end of the season, will decide whether one of the best teams of the Premier League ever, but they're doing pretty well and they look pretty good. So I'd say they're on the way. They don't look like they're going to lose. And even when they're not playing their best, they manage to win, and you're not expecting them to lose. They are very much like the Man City team of last year, where even if they go behind, you're just expecting, well, this will be a really good comeback, rather than actually they'll lose. So, I don't think they fear anyone.
Is that the last thing missing then? If they win the Premier League this season, will they then be one of the great sides, or do they need to do even more? Like, do they need to retain the title next year or something like that?
No, I think they'd be one of the great sides. They're winning it by a mile. They are not looking. I mean, the question is, are they going to lose a game? this season? Will they go down as Invincibles 2, which is, I mean, that would be amazing if they can do that.
I might have misheard this, so try not to laugh too bad, but if they lost one game in their past 61 games?
I think that is probably
I think
there
in
and
all
thereabouts.
formats, in all tournaments, but I think they've only lost once in 60 games.
Oh, well, I could name 2. They lost in the Champions League this year, didn't they?
Yes.
And
so maybe it's just Premier League then. Maybe
they lost in the League Cup, and they didn't win the League Cup last year. So they've probably lost a few, but in the Premier, sorry.
So to be clear, they haven't lost for 2 weeks. That we can be confident they haven't lost in 48 hours.
But I reckon.
I mean, neither Crystal Palace.
The number is very low, whatever that number of losses is.
Yes, they haven't lost many in a long time. Yeah. So, Gareth, I know this is uncomfortable for you. So, thank you for being brave. But are Liverpool one of the great sides yet? And if not, what do they need to do to get your seal of approval?
I think, in isolation this season, yes, once they wrap up the league mathematically, if they do the double, I mean, I can't see another side in Europe beating them, never mind in England. You know, I could see them winning the Champions League again, the way they're playing. You know, Barca aren't in great form, Madrid aren't in great form, Juve are playing well, but not brilliantly. So I just, you know, realistically, they should really fancy themselves for the double. But I think because they haven't won the league in 30 years, they'll go down as, you know, as definitely one of the greats to do it. And if they're invincible, obviously that will be mind blowing. I can't see them losing. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I've just looked up and it said since Liverpool last lost at home, Man United have spent 400 million on players. Chelsea
that wasn't the question.
Chelsea have their third manager, and Spurs have built a stadium. So
I love how Spurs' achievement is nothing to do with on-field performance. It's literally a construction company.
But they're unbeaten in the Premier League for 46 games. So once in the last 61 sounds about right, probably in the Premier League.
Yeah. Which is, I mean, that's ridiculous. That's considering the teams that, you know,
exactly.
Around, that is absolutely insane.
And do you know what's even more bonkers? So they haven't won the league.
Yeah.
Do you know?
So bitter.
They last lost in April 2017. Sorry, lost at home in April 2017.
Bloody hell.
Points to who can guess it, who it was against.
Chelsea.
Palace.
Point for Mr. Lautenberg.
It was in Palace.
Yeah. Guess who scored the winner? This is even bigger.
Cahill. Gary Cahill.
Oh, that would be amazing. But he wasn't playing for Palace then. But
who scored the winner?
Christian Benteke.
Oh, the irony.
So actually, speaking of what Boise just said there, how much Man U have spent, was it 400 million in transfer fees?
Yeah.
Here's a theory. I think it was Roy Keane in one of his great rants said yesterday that he thinks one of the biggest issues at Man United is not the recruitment. It's actually the fact. Maybe it's Jamie Carragher who said it, but it's not the recruitment. It's actually the fact that players are not improving at Man United.
Yeah,
and haven't been for a while. You know, this isn't just under Solskjaer, but for a while they haven't actually been improving.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd be interesting. What did you expect, Gareth? That would they beat Liverpool? Did you think that they would?
My head, 100% no chance. My heart was hoping that even though Liverpool won the league or were going to win the league, at least we could say we beat you. We're the only team to beat you. That would have been my only. Even when you win the league, we're still better than you on the day. That would have been the only caveat. But that dream's gone anyway. But look, I don't necessarily agree that out and out that people aren't improving under at United. Rashford's having the best season of his career. He's improved with Solskjaer, and his finishing's improving.
Imagine what he could do at Liverpool, though.
Well, win something.
I mean, I had a very funny debate that someone thought that Harry Kane wouldn't get in before Firmino. Although, to be fair, after they'd finished yesterday, the disallowed goal, I was like, it's a pretty good finish, that. He hasn't scored at home in 61 matches.
Really?
I made that up. But
Like
it's a long time. It's a long time. I don't know if it's 61 matches, but he hasn't scored at Anfield in ages. But okay, this is going to sound weird. Without Rashford, we looked very impotent, is the only word I can use. But I think Liverpool don't allow you to play. I think they just, anything United tried to do, Liverpool had an answer to, and that's what's terrifying. You know, I think if it wasn't for VAR and David De Gea, we would have been five or six.
Yeah, I think to be fair, Roy Keane said this as well, that actually, whilst he didn't think it was a great performance by Man U by any means, he actually was happy with the effort that they put in.
Yeah.
The fact that, till quite late in the game it was only 1-0. Considering the state that Man United are in, like you say, it could have easily been an absolute spanking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think United are improving. It's just, I think the gap between them and Liverpool is so great that it's just not used to it. But I think that's the thing. The other thing is Liverpool have been building up to this. Liverpool haven't won the title ever in the Premier League, whereas United have won it loads of times. So really, it's Liverpool have been building up, and United will get there. I think it's just going to take longer than anybody wants it to, or any of the Man U fans want it to. Which
you see, and this is kind of going back to my point about are they one of the greats? Because if for example Liverpool go on and win this season, which I think everyone kind of thinks they will, but then don't win the league again, with this bunch of players, for example, so say don't win it again for the next, say, 3, 4, 5 years. Is this team one of the greats? Because surely to be one of the greats, you need to do what Man U did, is be just winning titles after titles after titles. Premier League, Champions League, just dominating those two competitions. Yeah. And Liverpool, they've got a fantastic Champions League story and record, but they haven't got that Premier League consistency yet, the titles to go with it. So I think that's the thing, is that to really be classed as one of the greats, they need to win, I don't know, 2 titles out of 3 seasons, or 3 titles out of 4 or 5 seasons, kind of thing like that. That kind of consistency and domination will make them one of the truly great sides. Yeah,
no, that's a good point. Yeah, I agree with that.
Only time will tell. I do think the recruitment has been a problem at United, though. I think this last transfer window in the summer was the best we've had since Ferguson left, in terms of Wan-Bissaka's he's improved where we were at right back. Danny James is actually had a good season, and Maguire is still better than what we had. I don't think he's been as impactful as we thought he could be, but he has still improved us at the back. I know it's not great, but it's better.
Yeah.
And that's Solskjaer's first transfer window, really. So before that, it's been a shambles, with Pogba, Sanchez, Lukaku, all these players coming and not doing what they're supposed to.
Do you think they will hold on to Solskjaer for a while? They'll give him a good run.
Yeah, I think they need to. I think it'll be ridiculous if they get rid of him, but who knows?
I don't think they will. I don't think they will get rid of him. I think he's there for the next. I think my guess is the next 2 seasons, this season and next season. Yeah. I think if they're not challenging the season after that, and they're in the position they're in now, I think he'd go.
Yeah.
But I think they'll give him 4 windows and go, you've got, unless we are in real trouble, and it's like a proper free fall. Because they're not in free fall, they just have a good game, bad game, good game, bad game.
Yeah, I mean, look, losing 2-0 away to Liverpool isn't exactly a bad result.
Yeah.
I think
at the moment.
Are you fifth or sixth? Which is
fifth, and
I think
4 points behind Chelsea.
Yeah, I think that shows how poor teams from third down are, really.
Yeah.
No disrespect to United, but you haven't done much to get, and you're fifth, and Chelsea are still in the mix, and they've been up and down, and so Leicester seem to be trailing off a little bit. So,
speaking of up and down, the last big story of the weekend, the news came that it is confirmed that Saracens Rugby Club are definitely going down. They have had their relegation confirmed. And even though that has been one of the big questions answered, there are still 100 different questions there is. No clarity on at all. So I don't really know where to start with this one. Because, it's like...
You're our rugby correspondent, so I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. What do you think?
Okay, so here's some thoughts, not in any particular order, and not sure where they'll take us in discussion. But I think I can't make up my mind about their decision to accept relegation. My understanding is that they were told, you either open up your books for a full audit for the last few years, or you get guaranteed relegation. Which one do you want? And they said, we'll take guaranteed relegation.
But the point was, what I read was that if they open their books, then they risk getting stripped of the trophies. This way, they can't strip the trophies.
Yes. Now, again, I think that's really weird, because I think if you've been found guilty of salary cap breaches for a season to this level and you won anything, you should have that title removed, because you've won with an illegal team. It's the same as if you'd been found of doping in your team. You should be stripped. I don't think they should then give the title to the team they played in the grand final. I think you just have to put an asterisk against that season and you put title unawarded.
Yeah.
But I think that's weird that was even an option on the table, kind of thing.
It's bizarre. Some strange negotiation.
It looks dodgy as well when you say, look, if you guys, Saracens, if you're just open and honest, just show us your books, and we won't give you guaranteed relegation. They're like, no, it's all right, we'll take guaranteed relegation. Like, Christ, lads, what is in those books that you are so concerned about opening up? But maybe it's just like, look, we don't want that kind of invasion of privacy. We don't want, we assume it will be leaked and all this kind of stuff. But we don't want it out.
Surely, if they don't open the books, then they can. Maybe they'll reduce their salaries, but they can still continue breaching it and hiding payments. Whereas if they open them up, then everyone knows what they can do, and so it's a bit of a safety net, isn't it?
Yeah, and this kind of leads me nicely onto then my second point, which is. As guilty as Saracens are, and they're like, they are as guilty as a puppy sitting next to a pile of poo. Like, they definitely done it. But I also think Premiership Rugby, where they have been shown not necessarily to be just as bad, but pretty incompetent in the way that they've handled this.
Yeah,
way back in 2015, I think it was, I think Saracens and maybe a few others got found to be sort of breaking the rules and stuff, and there were slaps on the wrist, but it was kind of brushed under the carpet. And at the time, people like Brian Moore said, this is going to come back and haunt you if you don't slap them down properly and do, get proper governance and compliance rules in place. This will come back and bite you. And lo and behold, 4 or 5 years later, we're now looking at the biggest scandal to hit English rugby.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about it, what option did Saracens have? If they opened up the books, then they would have found they're continuing to breach salary caps and they've done nothing about it and would have got relegated. So really,
damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah,
so
why not just take the punishment and move on? I don't quite understand where they go from here though. What's the What's the permutations? So I was speaking to someone that suggested one of the options was they join the Pro 14 and just go right. We're not gonna have a salary cap, which sounded quite interesting. I hadn't even thought that would be an option, but
like that.
Rugby, join Super Rugby.
Yeah, that'd be amazing, wouldn't it? But I mean, that's been talked about. But I don't know all the details here. But the way I read about that from one, I think it was like Rugby Pass article, they said that's it sounds crazy, but that shouldn't be just like ignored as an option. But then if they did that, they would have to properly leave Premiership Rugby in the RFU and then go and join the Pro 14, and the chance of them ever coming back is zero. So then it's not just a case of like, oh well, we'll go and play there for a season and then we'll they are then gone, totally different competition, adios. I've been having this sort of debate with a few people. It feels weird that this team who have been guaranteed they're being relegated because they've been naughty, and also who I think they are convinced are still over the cap for this season, so still playing an illegal team by the rules of the league every weekend, but they are going to continue playing for the rest of the season. So if you're a team, I mean, and technically I was looking at this evening, if they win, I think they've got like 14 games left. If they win those games, and they're a pretty bloody good side, so you wouldn't put it past them, they can actually come fourth. Also, they can get the same number of points as the fourth place team did last year, which means they would make the finals. Which, I mean, what
that would be hilarious, wouldn't
that
it?
would be, I mean, Premiership Rugby would be like, oh my God, how bad is that going to look for the whole setup if Saracens make the finals? And again, if they make the finals, you're not going to put it past them to go on and win the whole bloody thing. And it's just insane. But this makes no sense.
To me, it seemed to come out. But this announcement seemed to come a bit out of the blue. Now, wasn't really up with it, so I wasn't. I didn't. Was it a set date that they needed to reduce their cap by, or was it because really? It's not a clever tactic, but if they've been threatened, had the points deduction, the only way they're not going to get relegated is by retaining the existing squad that can then keep them up.
That's breaching the law.
Exactly. So really, there was no disincentive to get rid of players and reduce their cap, because that's going to make relegation more likely. So
and again, I think this kind of comes back to the whole way that it's been managed by Premiership Rugby. The whole thing is a bit of a kerfuffle, and it's just again, Saracens they've admitted that they did wrong, and they're being punished for that. I do think that the way it's been managed, that it's been terrible. And I don't think they necessarily. I don't think they did what they could to. I don't think Saracens did as much as they could to try and get under the cap. But I also think that the way that the amount of monies they were paying, they were so far over the cap already that it was like, look, unless we can convince our entire squad to actually pay us to play, we are never getting under this cap. So, what do you want us to do, mate? There's like no way we're going to be legal. So, fuck it.
Well, they're also saying they're going to be talking to Eddie Jones and Gatland about what the impact for the, for the Lions in England and what do they want because the rule is there's been no. Have they ever picked an England player who plays in the Championship? I don't think anyone's been picked from the Championship.
I don't think so. Yeah,
I don't think so. But I don't know if that's because of a rule or just because.
No, I don't think. Obviously, they can't play internationally, can they? Then they're not eligible. And there's obviously conversations that the boys are going to go to Japan or going to go to France. You know, someone like Farrell and Itoje and stuff would absolutely beast it in France or somewhere else. Yeah.
So are they going to rules?
Are they? I mean, the whole thing is just cocks up everything.
Is the rule that if you're playing outside, like playing in another country, you can't be picked for England, or playing outside the Premiership? Because technically, if they played in the Pro 14 but were still based in England, then they'd still be eligible, right?
I think the main thing is that you have to be available for England training camps.
Right.
Like that's where it kind of all started, because I think there were some leagues, I think like the top 14 in France or something like that, where they said, we're not going to guarantee, we're not going to make England players available. Right. Or international players
available. Or international players,
for your training windows. So
fine.
Tough. So I think the RFU then said, nah, you have to be available for everything to play. And that's where I think England lost a few players, like, was it Stefan Armitage, his brother Dylan Armitage, and then like a Benderden as well, where they were playing overseas in France and they couldn't play for England. This is the thing, like there's so many questions. There's also a lot of people saying that actually I don't really think the Saracens did anything massively wrong. I think they found loopholes, and Premier Rugby never really came down on them and said, no, you can't. I mean, the stuff they did was in plain sight. Like, it's all registered on Company's House and things like that. Like, it wasn't a second set of books. So...
But we don't know that also now because the books...
Well, yeah.
I mean,
what they're showing, I mean, it's terrifying if we think it's... that they've not done, if they've just been loopholing this whole thing, and then if they had, they would just show it and go, well, close the loopholes, move on. Yeah, but it's not. There's something.
I'd go the other way. I think it's massively cheating. That's what it is. Like they've cheated. They've actually cheated the game, and I think it's huge for the game. The other thing that I heard, which is quite interesting, is that apparently to avoid an Abramovich style takeover and just buying all the biggest players, a rule in the Championship is that you have to meet the salary cap for the past 2 years. So that means that even if Saracens did go and win the Championship, they couldn't go up based on that rule, because they haven't met the salary cap. So really the minimum time that they're down in the Championship is 2 years, unless they change that rule, which is amazing, really.
And that's I don't think people have spoken about that enough. Like you say, it's not just, all right, lads, one season down there and then we're straight back up. It's like, well, actually, you're going to be halfway to the next World Cup.
Yeah.
You would be terrified though if you were like one of the bottom teams in the Championship and you're thinking, God, please just get rid of all these players. You just got like Itoje running at you and you're like, mate, I was playing like amateur rugby 3 years ago. I don't know what's going to happen. It's just people standing on my head and just the Saracens winning like 123-0 and stuff. It's just absolutely battering people.
I mean, there's some. I think Farrell is committed to staying. If I think so. So
he's just confused. He looks confused all the time. He doesn't know what's going on. He can't even spell relegation. Never mind bloody what that means. No offence. Great rugby player though. Great rugby player. Can't tackle and can't spell is my.
We're not going to have this debate about tackling. He's fine at tackling. He's absolutely fine.
With no arms, Farrell.
Look, the man goes down. All right, the man goes down.
Well.
But anyway, should we wrap up there? Because I think we could probably ramble on for a long time. But look, thank you very much to everyone for listening and staying with us. It was a bit of a deviation from our initial plan, but we promise we will bring you the greatest rugby 15 of the past decade. Actually, we're going to be focused on like the team we most want to play, don't we? the team you most want to see.
No,
so
not play. I don't want to play against anyone.
I don't want to play them against
just to clarify.
But we know that there's been a few listeners who have sent in their suggestions. So thank you very much for that. And if anyone else who wants to get them in, you've still got time. So do get them in there. You can catch us on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. So please get in touch. We'd love to chat. But for now, lads, have a fantastic week. A pleasure as always.
You too.
Yeah.
Go well.
Cheers. Go well.